let me just tell you, there are two groups of teachers right now. First of all, let me say, we are all experiencing burnout, mounting to-dos, pressure from admin. The kids are absolutely turnt. Those looming end of semester deadlines and to-dos are like crushing us under their weight. And our students are just as over it as we are. However, two groups of teachers. One, some of us want to quit right now. We are questioning every choice we have ever made. We wasted 4 years of college. We are losing this battle, and every day we are closer to death. The other group of teachers are cool. They know it's the nature of the biz. Yes, they are burnt out, but they're able to joke about how rough it is. They're still sleeping at night. They know it's just a rough season, have their lives together. They're still in control of their own narrative. Welcome. If you are new here, I am your teacher big sister. I'm taking all the talks that I have in my classroom after dismissal. All the teacher girlies are gathered in the classroom talking about their behavior struggles, the real problems teachers are actually facing that no one in admin, no coaches, no district people really seem to have the answers to. I've been there, done that. I'm sharing what really works, stuff that you can take to your classroom tomorrow and try. These are the same talks that I've had for years with my mentees, my little teacher sisters, the teacher besties. I'm bringing this all to you guys, the teachers who probably don't have that in their school. We're all just like your teacher next door. We're in need of advice. We want to know what really works in practice, not just in theory. Now, I want to give a quick disclaimer for today's video. If you're here, you're already like probably pretty self-aware. You're on like a self-improvement journey. You are seeking feedback. So this video is going to be very like inward focused, like reflecting on ourselves, our practices in the classroom, like things that we can do. With that, I want to say the struggles that we are facing in our classrooms are very real. Under-supported, under-resourced. These kids are wild. Systemic issues, political issues, all very valid. Lots of struggles, lots of barriers, right? But the purpose of today's video is to focus on like the things that we can control. We're working smarter, not harder, and we want to love our jobs again. That's our goal here. Okay, today we are getting our lives together in these areas. Out of control talking, kids actually following directions the first time, and then being productive with those directions. Being respected by our students, like maintaining control in our classrooms, and then a tough one, making sure that we're communicating like productively and respectfully in our classrooms. We don't want to be the teacher that all the kids hate, right? So if only some of those apply to you, feel free to fast forward to the timestamps, okay? All right, tune up number one, talking. So I like to break up like my stance on talking into three cogs, like three cog wheels that like work together to control talking. Our first cog, our first like working piece in controlling this talking is having crystal clear expectations. But wait, I want you to do this quick diagnostic on yourself because I know what some of y'all are thinking. Yes, I have crystal clear expectations. I just told my students 3 times to shut up. We are silent right now. That's not what I mean. Okay, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think to yourself. If I were to walk into your classroom, if the teacher girlies were to walk into your classroom, if the principal, if your boyfriend were to walk into the classroom and scoop up a handful of random kids and ask them individually, hey, can you tell me 5 times during your school day that you are expected to be completely silent? And tell me 5 times that you are allowed to talk, would all of those students have the same answers? Would they be able to give you like very clear yes and no answers? Right? Can you answer that yourself? Another question, at any given moment, do my students know what my expected voice level is from them? Are we completely silent? Are we partner talking? Same scenario, someone walks into your classroom and wrangles up a handful of kids and asks them, hey, what will your teacher do? What will happen if your class is breaking your talking expectation? If you're like, oh, like I don't know these things, that's okay. Most teachers don't. And why is that? Because we never learned it in college. None of our professional development teaches us that we have to do these things, right? That's why we're here. That's what we do here. Here are some strategies you can do to fix this tomorrow. 1, I love a morning meeting T-chart lesson on times that we do talk in our classroom during the school day and times that we don't. And why do we need it to be silent? Why do we talk at school? We discussed that at morning meeting. My students generate a bunch of ideas. They have a lot more buy-in when they get to say times that we should be silent. Yeah, I can't focus on my independent work when the green table won't shut up. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finishing my work when I get to talk because I'm off task with my table partner. Believe it or not, with some guidance, your kids will be able to really come up with some strong, like reasonable answers for this T-chart. Write what your students said on an anchor chart and keep it posted in your classroom. Refer to it consistently. Stick to it. Another thing you can do if you are one of my teacher little siblings and you have your routines, like on an anchor chart, you have a routine for whenever they enter in the morning. You have a routine for pack up at the end of the day. You have a routine and expectation for how they line up for specials. If you have an anchor chart for those routines, or you're teaching or rolling out a new routine for those transitions, those times of day, always include a voice level expectation. Here are my expectations for independent work. Our voice levels are always 0. Our voice levels are always 1, whatever it is. Here are my expectations for pack up and dismissal. My voice level expectation is level 0. Here's an anchor chart with our expectations for lunch in the cafeteria. We're expected to be at a level 1, a level 2. However, when the teacher does their attention getter, we are expected to be silent, level 0. Just get in the habit of embedding your voice level expectation in all of your routines. If you are in the habit, if your students have built a habit of speaking when you are speaking, you need to nip that in the bud right now. Don't wait till January. Do it right now. I know that's easier said than done. It's something that takes a lot of work in the beginning to break that habit. But say you're giving directions at the front of your class and you give your students the expectation to be silent. You're not moving on. You're not opening your mouth. You're not giving any directions until your students have 100% of their eyes on you and they're silent. You make a dramatic act or a scene of monitoring them to make sure that you have 100% silence. You make eye contact with every single one of those kids to see that they're meeting your expectations. As soon as someone turns their head to start whispering to someone, making a face at someone, does some kind of gesture, you stop. You stop and you wait. You give a silent redirection with your eyes. You give a silent gesture or a hand signal. You can say, I'm waiting on 1, and then you move on. It happens again, they get a consequence. They're sitting by you on the floor. They're getting it at home. They're losing their dojo point. One of my philosophies is that your teacher voice should hold power. When you start talking, your students should know that what you're saying is important. They know to stop and listen, and they certainly know that what they're saying is not more important than what you are saying. They're listening to you. Cog number 2 is making sure that we foster an environment where it's easy to stay quiet, where it's easy to stay silent. Some environments we know it's hard to stay quiet in. So this is a place where you need to be honest to yourself. I used to be the number 1 perpetrator of this. Are you yourself as the teacher having side conversations? Calling the teammates to see what we're ordering for lunch? Talking to the counselor at the door? Having conversations with students in the classroom? 1, that creates a buzz in the classroom that makes kids feel like it's okay to start talking. 2, you're not able to monitor for them talking when you do that. So this means that you have to have an expectation with your students that they're not asking you questions right now. They know what to do. They have everything that they need. We take our bathroom breaks at the beginning of class and at the end, not during work time. You know where to find a pencil if yours breaks. You know what to do when you are done. You know where to go if you don't have your paper. There's no need for questions. There's no need for you to answer any student questions. Another easy one to adopt is using hand signals or gestures, visuals, instead of giving verbal directions. For example, in my first year, I used to say things like, okay, who's done with their work? I would just get a cacophony of noise of students raising their hands, calling out, whatever it is. And then you have to tamper them back down. Instead, you can do an easy, show me on your hand how many questions you have left. Show me with your hands 0 through 10 how many more minutes you need. I know you're ready when you have your right hand on your head. I know you're still working if you have your left hand on your chin. Okay, and cog number 3, the biggest cog, it's in the middle, it's controlling everything. Without this, you have nothing. Following through and enforcing those expectations around talking. I know, easier said than done. Like I said, you have to have a hierarchy of steps. And I can't tell you exactly what's going to work for you. You know your students best. You know your environment best. You know what they can, what they can't handle, their age, their maturity levels, their executive functioning skills, your campus's expectations around behavior. Mine is something like, you get your warning. I'm going to give you a choice of you can either meet my expectations or this is going to happen next. You choose to break that expectation, you get your consequence. I'm going to let home know. You're going to come sit next to me. You're going to lose a privilege. A quick little mini diagnostic here. If you find yourself regularly fussing over and over about being quiet, giving reminders, redirecting constantly, that's a problem. That means that you need to take action. Give that consequence. Whatever hierarchy of steps that you decide on, it's probably going to sound something like this. Remember, we are always warm, firm, and neutral. Okay, what's the expectation for talking right now? We're silent and you're talking. So you can get back to working silently, or you can come sit next to me where I can help you make sure that you're working silently. Okay, do you know what choice you're going to make? Cool. You know what to do? Cool. Do you need anything from me? Great. Let me know. Some keys here. You want to make sure that you get the kid to say what the expectation is. That way there's no confusion. You know, they know what the expectation is. There's no, oh, I didn't know, she didn't tell, nope. So whenever you have to contact home, whenever it's a discussion with home, your story is going to be clear as day. Another key, you need to be as clear as possible when you say what is happening. Notice I said, Okay, what's the expectation? Right, and you were talking, so here's what's gonna happen next. Don't you give that kid a chance to gaslight you, because they will. If I had $1 for every time a kid had me questioning what I saw with my own eyes, I wouldn't be a teacher, I'll tell you that. If you give them a chance, they will tell you they were not talking. Another key here when redirecting is to present choices. You can fix it, yay, work silently, or you're gonna get your consequence. Or sometimes if your students need those extra supports, okay, you're not in trouble. You can come sit with me and get your work done. No consequence, but it can help you work quietly if you feel like you can't do it on your own. Or you can choose to stay at your table, but if you continue to talk, you will have a consequence. You have to be careful with that one because that one takes a relationship with your students and they have to trust you. They have to know that you really mean they can come sit with you and not be in trouble. If you feel like these things are like speaking to you and you really could like latch on to some help with talking, I will link a video in the description for you guys where we do a whole deep dive on controlling off-task talking. Okay, tune-up number 2, expectations and clarity, like your teacher expectations and clarity. This one has 3.5 cogs that are like working together. But first, let's run like a quick little diagnostic. It's that same scenario from before. Someone comes into your room, scoops up a handful of kids and asks them individually, hey, what's your teacher's expectation? What are you supposed to do when one kid goes crazy and is off task and is disrupting everybody? Hey, what are you supposed to do when the phone rings while your teacher is teaching a lesson? What do you do if you lost your weekly homework? What do you do if a visitor comes to the door? Ideally, these systems are all like student run. You don't miss a beat. There's a system put in place for all of these things. When we don't have systems like this put in place for all these little parts of our day, this leads to that whole like just general 2 steps forward, 1 step back feeling. There's just like a general fog of like, we don't know what is going on. You hear a lot on the regular of what are we supposed to be doing right now. You're constantly redirecting. You're constantly putting out little spot fires. Having a routine and an expectation for all those little tiny parts of your day will clear that up. I have a free checklist of all the routines and procedures that I have in my classroom, all those tiny little ones that you just don't think to have, especially if you're a newer teacher, like you don't know what you don't know, right? It's free and I'll link it for you guys in the description of this video. So let's talk about some of those routines. I know it's a lot and it can be overwhelming, again, especially if you're a new teacher. Where you're gonna get the most bang for your buck is your transitions in your classroom. Anytime that your students are changing activities or moving from one place to another, you need to have like solid steps for exactly what that should look like, how they should do it, what they should sound like, where they should be, and when sending your students off to go work. Independent work time, table group work time, math workshop time, partner work time. Work with your content coach, ask your teammates what they do, or I have exactly how I do it in my example breakdown. I'll link that for you guys. Or I also have a document called No Detail Left Behind with all these routines, and it's got like bullet point questions for you to ask yourself to come up with your own routine. If you don't know where to start, the number one thing I recommend is come up with a way that your students enter your classroom and start their work immediately, silently, calmly, and independently. The first 5 to 10 minutes of your class time is everything. Even if you're elementary and you're self-contained, when they come back in from lunch, when they come back from specials, when they come in the morning, a great way to like create some structure in your classroom to have that first 5 or 10 minutes when they come back in the class, that's like a buffer or like a bridge back into their instructional time. This is the same routine for my mornings for my homeroom that I have used for years. It works really well for me and my students. And this is the one that I use for each of my 3 rotations of class. In that same vein, pack up and dismissal, we all know it's notorious that that is like the most chaotic part of our day. Having a solid pack up routine for that time of day will change your life. This is the one that I have used for the last like 13 years in my classroom. I teach my students exactly what I do and don't want. We get up and we practice it, and I hold them accountable to following these expectations every single day. Professor Patsy on TikTok does a great job of showing like little videos to show like exactly how specific you need to be when you're rolling out these expectations. She'll show like what she said in her first year. First year teacher her was like, okay, come put your Chromebooks in the cart. And you guys know how that goes. And then she shows like a seasoned version of herself and she's like, okay, when I call your table group, you are going to form a line in front of me. You are going to hold your Chromebook with your port facing this way. You will hand me the Chromebook. You will slide it into the like very specific. Cog number 2, like I said, for expectations and clarity is going to be your student work time. Your instruction is your classroom management. You can be the best math teacher in the world, but if you are not structured and very clear and very consistent, your class is going to be chaos. When you're expecting your students to be doing independent work, group work, math workshop, readers workshop, social studies research project, independent reading, whatever it is, They need to have like a visual example of exactly what their work is, what their task is, and what it should look like, what to do when they're done, where in the classroom they should be, how they should sound, who they're working with, if anyone, how much time they're gonna have, what to do if they need help, and then we point them in the direction of different supports that you have in place. What's gonna happen if they don't finish? And just like I was saying in that Professor Patsy TikTok video, kids need an insane amount of support when going off to do their work. My first year, I remember saying like, okay, here's your worksheet, like go do your work, and immediately having like 18 out of 23 hands up. I think the only direction I gave was like, write your name on your paper. Over on the post-dismissal debrief after this video, I'm gonna model 2 different scenarios where I send my students off to go work. One is gonna be for like a turn and talk, and the other one is like modeling what I would do if my students were working on like an independent science research project. So if you wanna see those strategies in action, the post-dismissal debrief is linked in the description for you guys. Okay, and cog number 3, just like for the talking, is holding your students accountable and like making it stick. With those routines around your classroom, your transitions, your pack up, your entry routine, sending your students off to go work, we're practicing the steps that I just gave you. We're doing it again. Yes, get up, get your backpacks. We're gonna practice coming in the morning. Come back to the floor when I call you in your table groups. We're gonna practice going back to our seats. We're practicing meeting those expectations again and again and again until it is 100% where I expect. That's whole group. Now, if you have one student who's coming into your classroom every morning, running to their backpack hook, they come in talking when your expectation is that you enter silently and you enter calmly, you're gonna have them go back and do it again. You're gonna ask them what the expectation is. They can't tell you that they're supposed to be silent and calm. You remind them. Have them repeat it to you. They can't get their lives together. You're gonna remove some flexibility there. You're gonna walk them to their seat. You're gonna walk them to their backpack hook. They're gonna sit right here by you. Whatever it is, you're removing that flexibility. You're removing that privilege as a support for them. Holding your students accountable for that independent work, that student work time. Some things that I do in my classroom. Oh, we didn't finish our work today. When are you gonna finish this? Okay, that means you need to finish it tomorrow during our due now time. That's like the first 10 minutes that my students come into the classroom. When my timer goes up and our math block is over, I'm gonna go over to my turn-in tray with my roster, and I'm gonna highlight names of students who have turned their work in. Anyone who didn't turn it in, I'm writing their names on a sticky note, sticking it on my desk, and we're gonna be following up. Are y'all gonna finish it at lunch? Is it late? Am I letting them do it for homework? Do I want them to turn it in anyway so I can see what they were able to complete? A lot of times I'll save 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes of their work time, and I'll come around with my marker and I'll do like a visual check of their work. Check, check plus, check minus. It doesn't even need to be that serious. It's just showing your students that you told them they need to complete this task. Now you're gonna check to make sure they completed this task. We're holding them accountable, right? Okay, now here's the half cog, the baby cog. One of the best quotes that I heard as far as classroom management goes is, idle's time is the devil's playground. That means that you always need to have an expectation for what your students are doing. In your back pocket is a ton of little time fillers. You always have anchored up on the board what they're supposed to do when they're done. They always know what they're supposed to do when they're done. And I don't mean like just with instruction. I also mean like during pack-up time, all those little transitions. Let's say during dismissal, you have like 3 kids on behavior charts and you're checking in with them at the end of the day. We don't want our students to have all that idle time over there, the rest of our class, because imagine what they're gonna start doing. You guys already know. Put up some sand cutting ASMR videos. Pull up a YouTube read aloud. I love hamster obstacle courses. Backyard Hot Wheels obstacle courses. Language games like Family Feud style games. Set your expectations for it. They need to be seated on the floor. They need to be at their seats. They're completely silent, backpacks on their back, whatever it is. The whole point is to not just let them be doing whatever. Your students always have an expectation for what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, tune-up number 3. Your role as the teacher and like having respect from your students. For this one, we don't really need like a diagnostic assessment. You know if your kids don't respect you, right? This one also doesn't have any cogs. It's more of like a cog upgrade. We're like swapping out our rusty old cogs for like shiny new ones. A key here though is that respect is gonna be earned by our students. It's not the 90s anymore. Kids don't walk into our classrooms automatically respecting us as the adult in the classroom. We have to earn their respect. I'm just the messenger. And like the cornerstone that this sits upon is that our actions are gonna speak louder than our words. So cringe. I remember my first year, probably even my second year, telling my students that they needed to respect me. Duh, it's that easy. Respect me. How do you think that went for me? So let me read you guys my non-exhaustive list. This is just like a brain dump that I have of things that teachers commonly do in the classroom, I myself am guilty of, that will push your students to lose respect for you. As the teacher, flying off the handle regularly, your students will lose respect for you. Raising your voice in like a frantic way, they'll lose respect for you. Forgetting to follow through on consequences or like holding your students accountable, like on the regular. Exceptions, of course, happen. I mean, like regularly forgetting to follow through. If your students see you as like trying to please them or like keep them happy, trying to be an equal, you're the adult in the classroom. Kids talking over you, they're not respecting your voice. If you're repeating directions over and over, they're not listening to you. Losing papers, constantly making like little mistakes, not being prepared, kids do pick up on those things. I know, I'm sorry. Like, we are professionals, so we have to remember that sometimes. I know teaching is so overwhelming. Like, that's why I said I know, I'm sorry. We're all guilty of that one, I know. Kids will lose respect for you if you have loose boundaries. Your students can be up walking around the classroom. They can come up to you at your desk. They can interrupt you. They can walk up while you're talking to another teacher and just start talking at you. It gives like you are working for your students' vibes. Kids will lose respect for you if you are unpredictable, consistently unpredictable. Not in like a fun type of way, but in like a lack of control or structure type of way. The biggest one right here. If your students perceive that you don't like them or that you play favorites. I talked about this like pretty in depth on one of my recent like post-dismissal debriefs. Because hey, at the end of the day, this job is human. We are humans. Our students are humans. That's why I wrote it as if your students perceive that you don't like them. Okay, how we can earn respect or how students learn to respect you. Having consistency and structure. Your students know what to expect from you and it's always the same. So you want to like imagine that your students would say, like if they're talking to each other, like eating breakfast in the cafeteria in the morning, they're talking about something they're going to do in class. If you can imagine one of your students saying about you, like, ooh, no, she won't like that. Or, I'm not doing that with Miss So-and-so. He's going to tell you that you need to do this. He's going to call your mom. If you do this, then this will happen. That means that you're structured and predictable and consistent. Your students will respect you if you mean what you say, aka you follow through. I don't just mean on consequences or that unfinished work. I'm talking about you told them that they get extra recess, you give them their extra recess. You told them you would let them vote on the next look at game, you let them vote. Modeling emotional stability. This means that you are cool, calm, and collected. Again, another like very human trait. Some of us like do that more naturally than others, but we have to remember that like we are the adult in the room, you know? Kids will respect you if you listen to them and you value their ideas and input, and they see and feel like you're listening to them and valuing their ideas and input. All these little decisions that we make throughout the day, there's like thousands of them. Let them vote, let them choose on some of them. Stuff that's like pretty inconsequential, let your kids have a say in it. It's also a great way for them to like have buy-in in your classroom and feel like, you know, that sense of community. Kids need to perceive that you are a fair person. You're not playing favoritism. You're not giving like unfair treatment or unfair consequences. That might mean that maybe you have to like explain some of your choices to them. Kids will respect you if they know that you can maintain control of a crazy situation. You can gain control of a crazy situation. Kids will respect you if you are like unwaveringly. You're unwavering in your warmth and firmness. You are warm but firm. You care for them and you are kind, but you also aren't wavering in your choices. Okay, this one's a little tricky. Kids will respect you if they see you as being credible. This one kind of sucks if you're like a newer teacher because sometimes that does come with experience, being credible, like in your content, knowing how things work around the building, knowing laws, all that kind of stuff. Like having your lessons prepared and really knowing them, knowing how to help your students when they get stuck, explaining things very clearly, like all those little instructional things. Again, I know sometimes that just comes with experience. However, don't lose hope, new teachers. You can still be credible when you like open up and like admit to mistakes, know details about your students and like bring them up, check in on them on those little details that you know about them. Notice students' effort and growth. Advocate for those quiet kids that kind of fly under the radar. And just having like a general sense of professionalism is going to lend you huge amounts of credibility, even if you're new. Last one, kids are going to like you if they know that you like them, you're rooting for them, and you are on their team. Okay, now let's talk about that tricky one of teachers who can maintain or like regain control of like a chaotic situation. It is possible for every teacher out there watching this video, no matter what your classroom management looks like, you can be the teacher that the sub goes and gets, or the one teacher who's struggling with classroom management goes and gets to gain control of the classroom. You can be the teacher that walks in the door and the class goes silent. What does that teacher have that we want? They have respect. Those students know that that teacher has expectations and that they will follow through. Think back to when you were in school, that one teacher that came in and you know you were all in trouble. It's because you know their expectations and you know they're going to take action, right? So first thing, first step, I've said this 1,000 times. I feel like it is the most slept on thing that teachers don't do when it comes to classroom management. You need to have a very solid, practiced attention getter. You could literally do anything with your kids. You could set them loose at a trampoline park. If you have a strong attention getter, you will always be able to regain control of a situation. You got to teach it, you got to practice it, and then you have to know what to do if your students don't meet your expectations. You have to have a plan for if and when it fails. A next step or next moves. Let's say you're on lunch duty, it's a cafeteria scenario. The whole group is out of control. You get them to go silent. You know that the silence is not going to stick. The talking is immediately going to start creeping up. As soon as you gave that expectation to be silent, you find a kid who's talking, you remove them. They go sit at, a table by themselves. They go sit on the stage steps, whatever it is. Then you catch the next kid. Then you catch the next kid. Anyone who even starts to whisper, you are catching them. And it's going to feel like you're being so strict, like you're being so nitpicky. All those little things turn into big things, especially when you're trying to break a habit of students not listening to you. You have to be nitpicky. You do have to make examples of students sometimes if you want progress. Wow, I just moved those students to go sit by themselves at the lonely lunch table at the steps, and they're talking again. They're going to get moved. They're going to be facing the wall where they can't talk to anybody. They're getting a note home. I'm having them call their parents and tell their parents the expectation was to be silent. I chose to talk. I got moved for talking, and I still chose to talk. I broke my teacher's expectations 3 times. They're losing a privilege. Do you see how no matter what happens, no matter what level students don't listen, I still have a plan. I'm not giving empty threats. I said this is what's going to happen. That same general format applies to most situations. You're going to get your kids silent with that attention getter. You're going to give your expectation, and what's going to happen, the consequence if they don't meet your expectation. You are going to monitor like a hawk. This is a teach like a champion strategy called be seen looking. It means that you are making a dramatic show of monitoring for compliance. Imagine if you give directions and then you turned your back and you start shuffling through papers, or you pick up your phone to make a note in your phone of who was talking. Your students see that your eyes are off of them. You're not watching. They're going to turn around and start talking. So you are looking, you are monitoring, you're catching. As soon as someone chooses to break your expectation, you're catching them. You're not feeling bad. You just told them what they were going to do and what was going to happen if they chose not to do it. We're not feeling guilty here. You give that consequence swiftly, you move them, you're not arguing with them, and you repeat that same pattern if they choose to talk. You're escalating the steps, you're contacting home, they're getting detention, whatever it is. I just put a lesson plan, a 10-minute lesson plan on teaching your students your attention getter, rolling it out, teaching it, practicing it, enforcing it with your students. I just put that on my website, so I'll link that in the description of this video as well. It's the same lesson for exactly how I teach my students my attention getter at the beginning of the year. All right, tune-up number 4, the last one. This is communication. And I know that sounds kind of lame and unimportant, but this is what's going to make your students like you. It's going to show them that you like them. This is what's going to upgrade you to that professional, credible teacher. Now I am going to keep this one a little bit shorter because I have a whole video dedicated to this topic. I like to think of it with that iceberg analogy where our communication in the classroom, we only see that top portion above the surface of the water, but it really reveals so much under the surface of the water. There's so much to unpack. There's so much at play with the way we communicate to our students in the classroom. I will link that video for you guys in the description as well. Okay, we have 2 main cogs for our communication. Yes, verbal and nonverbal. First, I want you to do a little diagnostic assessment here, okay? It's going to require some vulnerability. This is coming from a non-judgmental place. I am one of the worst offenders of this. I've really had to do some personal work on this one. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you are sitting, at the front of your room, you're giving a mini lesson, you're teaching a direct teach, and you have redirected this one kid 3 times. They keep turning around and talking. You just lost your mind. You move them to the front of the room and they're still turning around, talking, disrupting while you're teaching this lesson. I want you to imagine what you would say to that student in that moment. Think about the last time this happened, because it happens to all of us. Now, I know what I would say. I know how I would sound, and I'm working on it, okay? Think about your tone, the way your voice sounds. Is it helping the situation or is it hurting the situation? Would it help you if someone used that tone on you? Does your tone in that situation match the vibe that you want for your classroom? I want my vibe to feel efficient and productive and uplifting and motivating, calm, supportive. Does my tone always match that? I'm working on it, okay? The words you say to your student when you're redirecting in that moment, is it helping or hurting? Are your words teaching that student what you expect from them? Or are you just like unloading emotions? Very human of us, right? Is your body language communicating that you believe in them, that you are in control of your emotions, that you like that child? That's tough, right? But do you see like how many things are being communicated to that kid when you redirect them? Okay, so let's talk about those nonverbals. Specifically, our tone. You can't be warm, be neutral. You're mad, be firm. Listen how these are different. Go back and try that again versus go back and try that again. I'm saying the exact same words, the exact same scenario. I'm just as mad on the inside. But listen to what that's communicating. And that's really hard for some of us. Some of us have like physical giveaways that show that we're losing control. Another nonverbal is our emotional like constancy. We're the mirror. Whatever we do as the adult in the classroom, they're going to reflect. That means as professionals, we have to be calm in the face of fire. You're frustrated and you're about to lose your mind. Take a step back. Do what we preach to them. Do the box breathing. Focus on your exhales. Like, as teachers, of course, we're humans. We're allowed to have emotion. But in the moment, we need to deliver our words like as neutrally as possible. Neutral body language. Our shoulders and our arms are relaxed. We're physically moving slow. We're watching the tension in our face. Okay, another nonverbal that's kind of like pivoting a little bit is that be seen looking strategy. So you're communicating, which means that you're monitoring after you gave a direction. So imagine you give a direction and then you turn around, like I said, and pick up your phone to text the instructional coach or to type a note about who owes you what work. You give a direction and then you start sorting through your papers on your round table. You're non-verbally communicating that, I hope y'all follow my directions, but I'm not really going to pay attention if you do or not. I know that if my group struggles with following directions, I want to communicate that I give you a direction. I'm going to make sure you're going to follow it. I'm verbally reinforcing what I want to see. Thank you, yellow table. Everyone's got their notebooks out and I see their pencils moving. Thank you, so-and-so. I see that you're using your vocab section in your notebook. I love the way that the red table is already reading out loud. Whatever it is, I'm reinforcing what I want to see. I give an expectation for everyone to be, in their morning meeting spot with their eyes on me. And I have a kid who's like laid back, lounging around. I'm waiting on one. I gave my directions for everyone to be seated with eyes on me. I'm waiting on one. I'm still waiting. So-and-so, it's you. I'm still waiting. Just kidding. Either way, this communicates to your students that you mean what you say. Your voice has power. And along with that, your actions speak louder than words. You're following through on your consequences. You're holding your kids accountable. For me in my classroom, I know what that means is that I have sticky notes with kids' names and tasks or things to follow up on all over my desk. And that's the system that works best for me to make sure that I don't forget to call that parent, that I don't forget to collect that kid's late homework tomorrow, that I don't forget to give that one kid extra time because they didn't finish their social studies, whatever it is. For me, that one is hard, but it's also a place that I know is going to give me a lot of bang for my buck. So I put time and energy into making sure that I can follow through. It's very high on my priority list to make sure that I write those sticky notes down and I follow through, because it's going to give credibility in my students' eyes. It's going to make my life easier down the road when my students know that I am going to follow through. Okay, our second cog for communication, our verbal communication. Okay, so I remember very early on in my student teaching coursework, I had a professor who she said, never do this. Okay, you know what? Starting right now, we have a new rule. Starting right now, no more mechanical pencils in this classroom. And that really, really stuck with me. I think about it all the time, her saying that. To not say, okay, you know what? Today we have a new rule in this classroom. And it's funny because up until recently, I didn't really know what she was trying to teach us in that moment. I was like, okay, so we just don't come up with new rules on the fly. Why is that bad? I get it now. What she meant was that it's going to come up with a big, long list of things we do not do. It's inconsistent, it's unstructured, shows that you're hot and heated, and your kids still don't know what you expect, what you want from them. So my point is, with our verbal communication, we want to say what we do want, which is ironic because she didn't say that. She said, never do this, and then broke her own rule. So if I lost my mind and said, okay, we're not doing mechanical pencils anymore, new rule starting right now. The problem is that kids are taking apart their mechanical pencils, they're dumping the lead out, they're snapping them constantly, they're shuffling around in their pencil bags trying to refill the lead, whatever it is that made me lose my mind. What I should have said from the get-go is, maybe I have a rule from experience. I know my teammate had this. We only use number 2 pencils. That's what's on our school supply list. That's what we use. Maybe what I expect is that we have all of our materials ready for our work time. If I'm digging around in my pencil bag, dumping out lead and switching leads out, whatever it is, I don't have all of my materials ready. Maybe what I should have said is if I'm teaching a lesson and all they need is their library book, all you need on your desk is your library book, instead of me saying no mechanical pencils. That way, my students know exactly what to expect. So, all of this to say, your expectations, tell your students what you do want. No running in the classroom. We walk calmly, quickly, and safely. Stop leaving your chairs pushed out. We always keep a tidy space. Why are you talking? How many times have I told you? Follow directions the first time. It's clear and it gives you something to fall back on when you're redirecting. I wasn't even doing anything. What's the expectation? Right. That we only have number 2 pencils, whatever it is. Okay, with our verbal communication, I talk about this a lot. I have some videos that I can link for you guys on this topic of when you're redirecting your students. We want to be like guiding, not lecturing. I have a whole soapbox on this phenomenon. I don't know where this started, of teachers redirecting students when they're talking and saying, "Why are you talking?" It drives me crazy. Do you want them to answer you? Do you really want to engage in an argument about this? Because you know that's what's going to happen. When they answer you for why they're talking, do you really want to hear what they have to say? Are you getting them to be quiet? Are you teaching them what they should be doing? Are you helping them be quiet in this moment? Like, there's so many things wrong with doing that. Why are you talking is right up there with Lucy Calkins on my betrayal list. If we're going to ask our students a question whenever we're redirecting them, it might be, what's the expectation right now? That's not a rhetorical, why are you talking? Now, your student, sure enough, might answer you and say, I wasn't even doing anything. And that's why we're guiding instead of lecturing. Instead, we'll say, what's the expectation? I wasn't even. What's the expectation? That we're silent? Great. Can you do that for me? It ends the argument. It ends the argument. The student might even say, like, but I wasn't even, after you said, can you do that for me? It doesn't matter. Can you do that for me? Yeah. Perfect. And you move on. They continue to talk. Hey, you just told me that the expectation is that we're silent and you're talking. Now it's time for a consequence. We're not engaging in that back and forth. What's the expectation? Are you doing that? What's the expectation? Okay, you just broke that. We're not engaging in the gaslighting. We're not engaging in the rhetorical questions. We're not engaging in the back and forth. We're getting that student to say what the expectation is. We're not fussing. We're not nagging. We're not lecturing. There's no confusion on if that student knows what they're supposed to do. And you're teaching them the behavior that you want. You're teaching them what you expect. You're helping them move towards making the correct behavior choice in the future. You're helping them improve their behavior. Plus, with that same sentiment of what I said earlier, we're taking action, we're about that life. The fussing, the yelling, the lecturing, the nagging devalues your voice as a teacher. We take action, we get that expectation. However, on the flip side, when we're saying, I tell you guys all the time, you guys are the class that always blah, blah, blah. What are we going to have to do next? Next, I'm going to have to hold your hands while we walk to whatever it is. We're fussing, we're nagging, we're yelling, we're lecturing. That's devaluing your voice. You're losing respect from your students. And what did we say earlier? We're about that life. We're taking action. We get that expectation, we give the choice, we impose the consequence, and we're consistent with it. What's the expectation? Okay, meet it or get your consequence. And then you have to follow through. All of this will fall apart if you don't follow through. You want to talk more about consequences? You're like, I could do a whole hour of this? Great. I will link the video for you guys in the description. I could talk about redirecting and consequences all day. Okay, and then let me wrap up this yap sesh with a cautionary tale. A tale from the teacher trenches, if you will. This is a true story of a teacher who did so much damage with a student, with that student's parents, with the whole class, in my opinion, because of her communication. Now, I'll state the obvious here. Like, I'm not a teacher hater. This student was no angel. Absolutely not. I would even say that this student was the one in the classroom that was the nemesis. The student woke up every day wondering how he could ruin his teacher's life. Not really. He was just a second grader. Like, he's a kid. Before that student even walked in the door every morning, this teacher would greet her student at the door and she would say something like, the tone was crazy. We're not going to have another day like we did yesterday, are we so and so? Like, she might have thought that that's making a fresh start, but that's not. That's like derogatory and reminding him of the horrible day that he had yesterday and asking it in like a sarcastic way. And the tone was crazy. Every time a solution was offered for his academic needs, for his behavioral needs, the solution was shot down with no alternative presented by this teacher. Which, like, if admin gives you a solution or an idea, or a teammate gives you a solution or an idea, and you're like, well, I've already tried that and it didn't work, that's one thing. We're knocking down solution after solution with reasons why it won't work. Like we've given up before we've even started. And the way we communicated with our student 100% reflected this. There were some major biases at play with this teacher towards that student that were 100% conveyed through the way she talked to the student. They were coming back from the library one day, and the students at the end of the line, the whole class was talking. The whole class was talking. Sure, you might have had like the one, two, three little kids who, are so quiet. One doesn't speak a lick of English. They're never the culprits when kids are off task talking. And how does the teacher choose to redirect? She calls the one student's name at the back of the line, tells him to stop talking. Why are you talking? He, of course, gives his mouthy response, and she tells him that he loses recess. What do you think his response was? I don't care. I don't have recess the whole week. Which, was he talking? Yes. So were 18 other students in that class. Is that teaching him what she expects from him? No. Is that showing that she's on his team? No. Is that giving him an opportunity to correct it? No. And then I was there when the teacher called this parent. That same tone, I know you guys can like picture it perfectly. You guys can hear it perfectly. That same tone that teacher had, those same words that she was using were 100% conveyed through the phone. As a parent, as an aunt, as a sibling, as an uncle, whatever it is, would you want a child in your life being talked about like that? From the person that spends 8 hours a day with your kid? Do you believe that this teacher has your child's best interests at heart, is rooting for your child? I was another teacher in the building and I knew that she didn't. Now, do you think moving forward that parent and that teacher were a team for that child throughout the school year? Absolutely not. Do you think that child experienced success and like a positive relationship with school? Absolutely not. And I'm not discrediting the fact that he was no angel, but that's also not the conversation that we're having right now. The lesson to take away from this is the way we communicate with our students is going to completely impact the culture in our classrooms, our students' behaviors, our relationship with our students, the success that our students are going to experience, our general day-to-day well-being. That being said, you have a nemesis or two? Here's what to do. See, I'm following my own rule, telling you what to do. Every day is fresh. And I don't mean we're not going to have the same day like we had yesterday, so-and-so, are we? I don't mean like that. I mean, I'm so happy to see you. How was your morning? Great. I'm so excited. You're going to love our science lesson today. We're doing such and such. All right, you know what to do? All right, come on in. Greeting that student like you're so happy to see them. I hate this phrase, but I don't know any other way to say it. Faking it till you make it. It will become a habit. It's something that it's like a muscle that you have to flex. Eventually, it does become a habit. Our school counselor in like my second year told me to do this. I had a student who was, I swear, out to get me, my nemesis. She said, every day when he comes in your classroom, you have to find a good quality about that student. Write it down on a sticky note. I had to write down a new sticky note every single day to make it through the year with the student. It did help. It really did help. I was so annoyed when she told me that. I was like, I'm venting. I don't want solutions, but it actually was a good solution. It really did help a little bit. Did it solve all of our problems? No, but it did help. And it did help me flex that muscle to become a better teacher. You're losing your mind and you can't ooze warmth toward a certain student. Just be neutral. Try to be neutral. And the last one, if you don't see the best in your students, it will come through. They're like sharks. They can smell blood. It doesn't matter how old they are. They know if you don't like them or not. And I think we all know teachers that just need to leave the profession. They clearly don't like kids anymore. The system has just done them dirty too many times, understandably, and they need to leave the profession. Don't traumatize children any more than they need to be traumatized. If you find that you cannot like certain students, find another job, I beg of you. That's not nice of me to say. Pretend I said that nicer, please. Okay, and on our way out, a little big sister love for you. I asked ChatGPT, what are some ways that adults, like if you were a therapist, what are some ways that adults show that they have respect for themselves? And here's what he said. My chat is a he, I don't know why. Chat said that adults have and set and hold boundaries for themselves. So do you do that in your classroom for yourself? Chat said that adults who respect themselves have a calm confidence. They're not bumbling and defending themselves at every turn. Are you doing that in your classroom? Adults who respect themselves take care of their needs without apology. Do you do that in your professional career? No, I'm not taking questions right now. You have what you need, because my needs are to sit in silence for 5 minutes. Adults who respect themselves expect mutual respect. They don't stick around in situations where they are being mistreated. Do you let your students mistreat you? They refuse to enable or overfunction for others. We all overfunction for our students, right? Adults who respect themselves advocate for themselves. That means that we're setting up systems in our classroom that support us and our needs. And a sign that an adult respects themselves is that they show up with pride in how they dress, speak, and behave. I remember my first year teaching, I had an amazing behavior resource specialist, and we had a student who he was just running us through the mud. He was sneaking out of class, he was tricking us, he was doing all kinds of crazy things. And I remember we were in a staffing together, and she said, it was all women, so excuse any men, if you're watching this. She said, ladies, we are calm, competent, smart, college educated women. We are not going to let this 9-year-old outwit us. And it stuck with me. 13 years later, it stuck with me. She was right. We're the adults in the situation, and we respect ourselves. And if we respect ourselves, that's going to come across in our classrooms. Okay, you guys know what time it is. It is time for the post-dismissal debrief. That is where carpool is over. We are in my classroom, the lights are off, and we are spilling the tea and yapping. We are debriefing about our day after dismissal. You don't have that at your school? Come join us. Like I told you guys, I'm going to be modeling in 2 different scenarios, ways that I send my students off to work. It is exactly what I sound like, my directions that I give in my classroom, some strategies that I use. I'm also going to be yapping about a video that kind of went viral recently about instructional coaches. The comment section was hot. I'm pretty sure I got called a bully in one of them. Anyways, there is a lot to unpack there with toxic teacher culture, cliques, mean girl teachers. So we're going to be yapping about that as well. And I hope you can join us. And if not, I will see you next time.